don't understand why. This ends now.
You know, it was one of those crisp autumn evenings in Chicago, the kind where the wind off Lake Michigan bites just enough to remind you winter's creeping in, and EMS Whitaker had just wrapped up a brutal day at the office, closing another multi-million-dollar real estate deal that kept our family empire humming along. I'd built Whitaker Properties from the ground up after Dad passed, turning a couple of rundown apartments into a skyline-dominating portfolio, but honestly, none of that flashy success prepared me for what I walked into that night at our estate in Lincoln Park. The front door creaked open, and right away, I heard Ida's sharp, venomous voice slicing through the quiet like a knife. "You're just a pathetic old hag, draining everyone's life away. Why don't you do us all a favor and fade out already?" I froze right there in the foyer, keys dangling from my hand, my heart pounding like I'd been hit with a freight train because that voice belonged to my wife, Elena, and the whimpering response came from my mom, Margaret, who at 74 was battling the fog of Alzheimer's that had stolen so much of her spark over the past few years. Peeking through the cracked door to the sitting room, I saw Elena towering over Mom, shoving her frail frame back into the velvet armchair, her face twisted in this ugly mix of frustration and something darker, like pure resentment bubbling up from some hidden well. Mom's eyes were wide, confused, tears streaming as she murmured, "Please, honey, I don't understand why you're so mad." And Elena just gripped her arm harder, hissing back, "Mad? You don't even remember your own son's name half the time. James would be free without your dead weight hanging around." That moment gutted me, you know? I'd remarried Elena 3 years after losing my first wife to cancer, thinking she'd bring some light back into our home, especially with Mom's condition worsening. She promised to help care for her, said she understood family came first, but watching this unfold, it was like peeling back a layer of my life and finding rot underneath. I'd met Elena at a charity gala, her sharp wit and polished charm drawing me in during those lonely months, but now, hidden in the shadows of the hallway, I spotted our new caregiver, Aaliyah Thompson, a 38-year-old woman we'd hired only a month back from a Southside agency. She stood there, silent as a statue, her dark eyes taking it all in with this quiet intensity, like she was memorizing every cruel detail, and in her hand, discreetly, she was filming on her phone, steady as a rock despite the storm raging inside her. I could tell. Aaliyah had this background that made her perfect for the job, or so the agency said. Raised in the tough neighborhoods of Inglewood, daughter of a single mom who juggled shifts as a nurse while Aaliyah cared for her grandma through dementia's cruel twists. She dropped out of community college where she'd studied paralegal work to help pay bills, but that grit shone through in how she handled Mom, always with this gentle patience that made the house feel a little less empty. As Elena stormed off, muttering about wasted time, Aaliyah slipped her phone away and knelt by Mom, whispering, "It's okay, Mrs. Margaret, I'm right here, let's get you some tea, yeah?" And Mom's face lit up, her trembling hands reaching out. "Aaliyah, my sweet girl, you're always my anchor." Seeing that contrast hit me hard. Elena's impatience versus Aaliyah's warmth, and right then, a seed of doubt planted itself deep in my chest, whispering that maybe I'd been blind to the woman I'd led into our family. Over the next few days, that doubt grew like weeds in cracked concrete, choking out the trust I'd built with Elena. I'd catch glimpses her rolling her eyes when Mom repeated a story from my childhood, or snapping at her for spilling tea, always framing it as tough love when I asked, but her excuses rang hollow now. Elena's motives started clarifying in my mind. She'd come from a modest background in the suburbs, always eyeing the wealth I'd accumulated, pushing for more control over the family trusts, saying it was for our future. But I realized it was greed gnawing at resenting Mom as the barrier to full access, especially since the estate was tied up in protections for Margaret's care. She'd manipulate little things, like suggesting nursing homes for everyone's sake. But now I saw the calculation behind it, her impatience fueled by visions of inheriting without the burden. Aaliyah, though she became my quiet observer, noticing how Mom shrank around Elena but bloomed in her presence. One afternoon, as I lingered in the kitchen pretending to grab coffee, I overheard Elena cornering Aaliyah. "Where the hell were you? Your job's to babysit the old bat, not wander off." Aaliyah stayed cool, replying, "I was sorting her meds, Mrs. Elena, just making sure everything's right." But Elena leaned in, voice dripping sarcasm. "Meds? Please, she's one step from vegetable status. Maybe up the dose and speed things along." Aaliyah's eyes flashed, but she held back, and later, when Elena was out at her spa day funded by my card, of course she confided in Mom during a lucid moment. "Mrs. Margaret, you remember what she said yesterday? About wishing you weren't here?" Mom nodded slowly, fear flickering. "She thinks I'm holding James back. Maybe she's right. I forget so much." Aaliyah squeezed her hand. "No, ma'am. That's the illness talking, not you. You're the heart of this home." I started piecing it together, my inner turmoil churning, guilt for not seeing it sooner, anger at Elena's betrayal, and this growing admiration for Aaliyah's steady resolve. She'd document everything subtly, I learned later, using her paralegal smarts to note dates, times, even snapping pics of the extra pills Elena slipped into Mom's routine, ones not prescribed, meant to dull her further and push for institutionalization. Elena's campaign ramped up, as if sensing eyes on her. She'd belittle Mom in front of the gardener, Carlos, a loyal guy who'd been with us for years, calling her useless baggage. And once, when she thought no one was around, shoved her hard enough to bruise Carlos, whispered it to me later, his voice shaking. Mr. James, it's not right. Your mom's like family to me too. The tension built like a storm over the lake, and Aaliyah's patience turned strategic to arrive early with extra supplies, stay late for paperwork, all while building a dossier that could stand in court. Her own history fueled it. Losing her grandma to neglect in an underfunded facility had scarred her, teaching her that vulnerability invites predators, and Elena was the epitome climbing social ladders on others' backs. One evening, Elena tried to turn the tables, accusing Aaliyah in front of me. Things are missing jewelry, cash. I hate to say it, James, but she's the new face around here. Aaliyah didn't flinch. If that's true, call the cops. I'd love to see your proof. Elena stammered, her poise cracking, and I suggested cameras for security. Watching her paleo, the irony, her own trap springing back. Deep down, I wrestled with it all. How had I missed Elena's masks? She'd wooed me with stories of her struggles, but now they seemed scripted for sympathy. Her resentment toward Mom stemming from jealousy over the bond we shared, one she could never replicate. Aaliyah, sensing my unrest, pulled me aside one night in the garden, the city lights twinkling below. Mr. James, your mom's been enduring this for months. Emotional jabs, physical pushes, even those shady meds. I've got it all recorded, but I waited for solid proof because, well, folks like me don't always get the benefit of the doubt. Her words stung, highlighting the inequalities she'd navigated her whole life, and I nodded, voice thick. You've protected her when I couldn't, thank you. She just smiled faintly. Family's not always blood, it's who shows up. That conversation flipped the switch. Me passive watching turned active, and Aaliyah connected with an old friend, Jamal Harris, now a prosecutor downtown, sharing her evidence over coffee in a bustling Loop cafe. Jamal's face hardened as he reviewed the files. This isn't just mistreatment, Aaliyah, we're talking felony abuse, fraud with those pills. Elena's looking at real time. Back home, Elena grew erratic, her control slipping. She'd rant to Mom. You should have checked out years ago, saved us the hassle, not knowing every word was captured. Carlos even added his witness statement, motivated by his own mom's similar struggles, adding layers to our quiet rebellion. The climax hit like thunder. Elena lounging in bed one morning, smug as ever, when the doorbell rang. Two detectives, badges flashing, flanked by Jamal. Elena Whitaker, warrant for search and arrest, elder abuse, illegal meds, the works. She bolted up, face ashen. This is absurd. I love Margaret like my own. But Jamal played a recording, her voice booming. Fade out already, you hack. Mom winced, but Aaliyah held her. It's over now. Elena spun to me, pleading. James, it's a setup. Jealous, trying to steal your attention. I stared back, cold. No, Elena, you tortured my mother for greed. There's no coming back. They found her hidden stash sedatives bought off shady contacts, meant to accelerate Mom's decline and clear her path to the fortune. As they cuffed her, Elena snarled at Aaliyah. You? A nobody from the streets, thinking you can take me down? Aaliyah met her gaze evenly. I'm a caregiver, a fighter, granddaughter of a woman who deserved better, and yeah, I know the law enough to bury you. The door slammed on Elena's screams. The estate suddenly still, rain pattering like applause. Mom turned to Aaliyah, whispering, my guardian angel, and I hugged them both, tears mixing with relief. Our home reclaimed. 6 months on, Mom's thriving off those toxins, her lucidity returning in waves. We spend afternoons in the garden, her recounting tales of my boyhood antics, laughter echoing where silence once reigned. Aaliyah? I brought her on full-time as our advocate, starting the Whitaker-Thompson Initiative for Elder Protection, channeling our pain into helping others. Dozens of families already spared similar nightmares. Elena got 7 years, her case a wake-up call for how the privileged prey on the vulnerable. But here's the twist that still nags at me. During the trial, her lawyers painted her as a product of her own traumas, abandoned as a kid, clawing for security, twisted into this monster by society's grind. Was she purely evil, or a broken soul lashing out? It makes you wonder about redemption, about whether justice heals or just punishes. And Elena's fall sparked debates in our circle. Some say she deserved worse. Others whisper about systemic failures that breed such desperation. What do you think? Drop a comment below. Is true justice about locking folks away, or fixing the cracks that create them? Share your stories of family betrayals or quiet heroes. Let's unpack these messy human tangles together, and if this hit home, hit subscribe, share it wide, because stories like this remind us vigilance starts close to heart.